This is the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? Here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
It's time once again for everybody to come aboard the...
Well, we got the dirt track race out of the way, Bobby. Time to move on with the talk about other things.
Finally.
Tell you, man, that and it extended out even further. After a really great week of dirt track racing here in Texas, we get an extended double doozy yesterday, as a matter of fact. They're from Bristol as the Cup Series gets their thing done, and we'll definitely have to talk about the I don't want to say, not the fallout. I mean the reaction. The reaction, because there's plenty of it. And then at 6:30, we're going to talk to. We're going to get looched. And it's funny how when you play the Flying Carlucci video, how it dropping down here a little bit. Man,
don't worry. I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to adjust the camera.
Yeah, I know.
Minutes since I've been in the studio.
Facebook went crazy over the Flying Carlucci. Yeah, that's Showtime Bobby Chaffee down south. I'm Roddy Rodriguez up north. Hope everybody's doing well. How's your day been, man?
Kind of busy for a Tuesday, but at least it wasn't a Monday. That's the best thing I got out of it today.
That's
not
right.
Monday.
It is Tuesday. I'm still a little bit thrown off, and that was a situation because I yesterday, Bobby, when we were going back and forth, I had a feeling that thing was going to extend itself out, and I'm sure we probably could have done the show still yet, but I mean that's a scenario where I talked to a lot of people that were like, don't be blowing stuff up because I got to work and I can't be, I don't want to know who wins because I'm going to VCR or DVR this thing and so kind of that. So that's why we kind of thought, it's a good idea. We'll just push it out and it's all good. Nothing wrong with a Tuesday. At least we won't have to deal with Brand X or anybody else going at the same time.
Well, yeah, that's true. Two Brand X's going at the same time.
Why does everybody want to use this time or the Monday time? It's like, we came up with that time slot. We were doing this before everybody else, as a matter of fact. Now everybody, we're going on at 6 o'clock. We're going to 6 o'clock Eastern or whatever. Although I will say that our friends at 51 have bumped theirs up to where they're way ahead of us. So we appreciate that. That's good.
We do. I keep messing with my camera, and it's still not moving.
And I'm over here messing around with the sound, and I don't know what the heck. I don't know what the heck happened in here this weekend. I was moving some stuff around, but as we said, a great weekend with short track racing around here. We'll touch on the Bristol stuff. Houston Gulf Coast Racing Series gets fired up on Saturday. We do want to talk, and it may be after we talk to Greg Carlucci because we want to dedicate plenty of time to that, but talk about, get some ideas, who's going to win, who's going to be tough, who's going to show up, who's not going to show up. I mean, all of that, definitely want to hear about that. Texana, how was it for you, man? That's a cool little joint over there, isn't it?
It's a fun race to call. The little cars are a little hard to call just because of the fact some of their numbers are off and they're hard to read. Some of the little micro sprints, mini sprints, those numbers were really tiny, but wasn't a bad deal. Some great racing. Cody Leonard and Jared Maupin, both who's been on the show before, put on some really good racing down there and in the modified main event. So that was a lot of fun to watch, and look forward to going back down there for another couple of races.
Yeah, good winners over there. As you said, it was Cody Leonard, and then Jared wins in the sport mod. GW Hessong, man, those factory stocks over there, those guys get after it. That's I was watching some of that there on a replay, and it looked like Steve Grant's and Cord. Good run for Cord Beard. I mean, for him to jump up there and run that thing like that, I mean, that was really, really good there. It's a fantastic class. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Preston winning over there in the E-Mod. It looked like a fun night.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a good time, and although it's funny, you couldn't tell in the beginning that I've done that for about 15 years, announcing and opening ceremonies. Because when I went in to double check the volume of the computer, I tripped over the input cord and pulled it right out, right in the middle of God Bless the USA. So you'd have been laughing. You'd been on the floor laughing. Owen was on the mic like, we're working with a rookie here. I was like, well, yeah, you got that right.
The funny thing is, talking about stuff like that, I mean, years ago, as we've done this for so damn long, we didn't have to do those things. We were just like, welcome, and the heat race would come out, back in the pavement days of all of that. But that's where it's changed. I mean, this is entertainment, and I mean that's the first race over at Waco. We were having a PA thing. We were trying to figure out how to operate all that, and apparently it's like a tradition there. And we do this. I mean, we've always done this, but just in our panic of trying to make everything work, we forgot to recognize the veterans. And talk about that's not the thing to forget your first day. So I'm still kissing ass after that one. But anyway, it all worked out. It's all good.
Yeah,
but,
it happens. It happens.
Yeah,
If everybody thinks it's as easy as it is, everybody should just give it a try one night and see how much fun it is.
Yeah, that's for sure. Heart of Texas, Cody Tyndall in the modifieds. Caden Honeycutt, man, sport mods. That dude started deep in the field, and you got a first-hand opportunity right there to see why so many people are high on him. In the iStock, Jason Batt, after almost severing a finger on the finger that on the hand that does have 5 fingers. He almost had matching hands. He wins in the iStock. Ryan Hopkins in the factory stocks. Wade White wins once again in the and Wade White's another one of those guys over there at Heart of Texas where he wins and some people are happy, but most are not, and they're very vocal about it. It's like, whoa. DFW crate late models. Patrick Daniel, out of Wills Point, Texas, wins that one. He actually finished third. Top 2, which is Robbie Starnes, little Robbie Starnes and Caden. They didn't quite make it through the tech shed, but one of those things.
It happens.
Lots of dirt track racing happening. So initial thoughts. What have you gone back and watched everything that happened yesterday? Primarily the Cup race.
Not really.
Okay.
I watched about the last 50 or so laps back on the couch at the house, but not really had a chance to watch any of the highlights or anything today. Listened to some of it on MRN when they went for the last replay and had everybody jumbled up before they went to the single file restarts. But yeah, I mean, I think that it was. Obviously, somebody thought it was a success if they decided to do it again in 2022. They announced that in the middle of the race, which I'm kind of surprised about because I don't know how in the hell you're going to get a sports car to go on a dirt track unless they use the same cars they have now, which is possible.
Well, that's my thought. We were talking about that the other day, and I really think what they need to do is. I mean, honestly, it raced. It raced like the old Bristol. But hell, you couldn't see anything. I mean, that was, that was part of the thing. And yeah, I know it was a success, and I know people enjoyed it. But Bobby, I got to tell you, I mean, it pretty much came down to what we said it was going to do. I mean, the track held up. It was getting bumpy at the end, but I mean, that's not a dirt track. I mean, it's not native dirt. I mean, you're trucking this stuff in. I know it's been done before. I posted something the other day about, throwing out, you put sawdust and all this stuff down. Well, it's been done before. Well, yeah, but I mean, hasn't been done with this. And great that they're going to do it again. But honestly, I would say scrape the dirt off and get some asphalt down and let's turn this back into old Bristol as much as possible. When you reduce the banking, because that's what they did for this, go over there and make this a racing track, and let's do this dirt track thing. Let's do it somewhere else. Let's do it on a dirt track. Charlotte's got one. TMS has one. I mean, there are tracks where you can do this, where this whole crowd and everything can happen.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the next evolution is. How many more dirt tracks do you go to? I think the reason that it worked at Bristol is because of the dollars and cents. Despite the fact that there was a rain out on Monday, there was a large amount of people there in the grandstands yesterday.
Shit ton.
I thought, I mean, there was for what it was, right? I mean, a COVID crowd or not, I'm not sure how many people decided not to come back on Monday. I mean, a lot of people didn't, just because that's what you normally see. That's what happens. But as far as just the overall crowd, I mean, I thought there was some good attendance. I think that if for some reason Mother Nature cooperates and this race is run on Sunday instead of Monday, I think you get a totally different reaction because you get the actual live reaction that you're looking for the race.
Yeah. And, as it went on, I mean, it was steadily getting worse. And I know that they had people out there and they had great, for one thing, let's give credit where credit is due. The fact that they got that in yesterday, because I was watching stuff where the weather there was unbelievable, and to the people there in Middle Tennessee that were affected by all of that, that was horrible. I know we were in Nashville, I think, around 2010, 2009. I don't remember when it was. And we were fresh off of the first flood, well, not the first flood, but the more recent one. And there was some stuff that was messed up over there. And the fact that they got that done and the fact that those people hung around, I mean, because it did. I mean, that looked, I mean, all kidding aside, I know people like to joke around, Bobby, but I mean, to me, that looked about what the crowds have looked like.
I mean, it really did.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
we didn't get to see the crowds during practice or whatever. I'm not even sure if they allowed fans in there for practice on Friday afternoon, but it was a hell of a crowd, all things considered, especially when you look at some of the campgrounds that were flooded with, 3 and 4 feet of water. A lot of the parking lots were flooded under 3 and 4 feet of water. So that's, it wasn't just one of those things. I mean, when you have a race where the Track County is under a severe thunderstorm warning and a flash flood warning, it's hard to get people into the racetrack.
Yeah.
When all the little low-lying bridges and roads are covered up. It's just a hard thing to do. NASCAR didn't want to postpone that. Trust me, Fox didn't want that thing postponed. Nobody did, but it just ended up working the way it did, and I guess it turned out about as good as it could.
Yeah, I saw it got a thumbs up. They said it got a thumbs up from NASCAR, which take that as whatever it may be. But I think the real winner in this, and again, guys, this is where you do lean on NASCAR, and I think the real winner in this is dirt track racing, because you've put it on a big platform. You've put it to where people are now interested and intrigued. Bobby, I sent you a text from a colleague of ours over at the radio station that was like, WTF? I mean, what is this and why? Was pretty much a question. And after a very long text chain to explain exactly why this was happening and what the concept was, I mean, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. I really don't get it, but I think I get it. And I think that's the real winner, and that's where dirt tracks, you dirt tracks here all around the country. We've got folks that listen and watch us from all around the country. This is where you need to seize in, and even if you don't want to say the word NASCAR, I mean, this is where you can zero in and you go get that brand new audience, because they are fresh for the taking. Because if they liked what they saw yesterday, that's in your favor. We old school people are the ones that said it's too dusty, the track was too junky, they should have watered the top of the track. We're the ones saying that. We dirt track experts, Bobby, like you and I, are the ones saying that.
Yes, absolutely.
But for all those people, I mean, if you pull out, let's say CBS, I mean, if you capture 25 new people from that NASCAR race, that's 25 more asses in the seats.
And that's money in the pocket of the
money
promoters.
In the pocket.
Well, not necessarily. Well, we talked about that plenty of times. Not that for every ticket that comes in, it's more money into the racetrack, not so much the money in the promoter's pocket. But all in all, I mean, and getting new faces and new places in the grandstands is never a bad thing, regardless of how they decide to come in or not. Whether they come in through a cup race or they just come in through they see the sign or some through word of mouth. I think word of mouth is probably the most efficient and cheapest way to get people to come back to a racetrack or get them to come out the first time. But you're right. I mean, as far as the NASCAR word, a lot of people still think it's a bad word, even on the asphalt short track stuff. But
yep.
I mean, I think this is the closest that we're going to get to associate dirt track racing and NASCAR, and since 50 years, since 1970. So,
So, and I'll ask you this again Saturday. So I'm asking you this now, and let's see how our opinions change between now and Saturday, as we'll be over on the Horn at 11 a.m. So. We saw when the mile and a half started popping up, it was like, okay, these are neat. We had some good races, and then boom, there they are. So do you think that we're going to start seeing, is this dirt track thing for NASCAR, for the national stuff, for the trucks and for the Xfinity, maybe at some point, do you think this is going to be the craze where we start seeing dirt tracks purchased and retrofit to do these national things, or do you think that this is something that's going to stay Bristol, maybe let's find. I don't know why we're not doing this at Knoxville. If there's a Tony Stewart conflict, I don't think Eldora is really the place to do this, all kidding aside. But do you think we start seeing a craze where these purpose-built dirt large series facilities start building up, and then here we are in 10 years saying, oh my God, these dirt track races are horrible?
I hope not.
Me too.
I know that's going to make it. It's going to make a ruffle a lot of feathers.
I don't want NASCAR to ruin dirt, if you know what I mean.
Well, they ruined the truck race by putting the Cup cars on dirt.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly what happened. The truck race was not as good of a race as we thought it was going to be with the way that Truex dominated. But all in all, I mean, I think that the fact that the Cup cars are on dirt, it totally took away the specialness that is the truck racing on dirt.
That is ruined. That's ruined. That's
gone.
Totally ruined.
All the allure of that race, everything's done. They took 5 years of good positive momentum with something really cool by watching the National Truck Series on dirt, and they ruined it by putting the Cup cars on dirt. Nobody gives a shit about the truck races on dirt anymore. Nobody's going to care when they go down to Knoxville because they're not going to have a Cup race associated with it. So I think that NASCAR, they did a good thing by putting the Cup cars on the dirt. They were trying something new. I guess Frankenstein's monster worked enough because they're going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they really put a stab against the truck series to try to come through and make that, that was a marquee event. Drivers loved it. And it's still going to be a marquee event when they go to Knoxville. A lot of the dirt track guys that you saw racing at Bristol are still going to try to show up at Knoxville. But I think it just totally takes the wind out of the sails of the truck series with a special event like racing on dirt.
And, they'll continue to work on the product. Apparently, Goodyear's going to come with a new tire. And it was so funny, the messages I was getting yesterday, Bobby. And it's, you can appreciate this. Like, why aren't they running Hoosiers? Hoosier has a great tire. There's a tire that would work great. You can't. And you can't. And they're not going to run Hoosiers next year, for crying out loud. And it's like, these cars look like shit on there. Well, they're not made to run there.
Yeah.
That's why I go back to develop this car to bring it back and maybe add, another race or somewhere. But it's done. It was a success, I guess. I'm just not. I'm just not the biggest fan of seeing all that dust everywhere. And for crying out loud, why in the hell did Denny Hamlin or Ricky Stenhouse not lay the bumper on Logano? It kind of took at the end. I'm like, okay, here's where we get the exciting part, and they take off, and it's a very NASCAR finish. I'm like, okay, but I think it does solve the question. Remember when Hammond was on with us on the Saturday, where he said NASCAR says they have the best drivers in the world. Well, I tell you what, the NASCAR guys beat the dirt guys because, Daniel Suarez, dirt ace, I'd have never thought it.
Yeah, I'd have never thought it. I think it brought a chance to bring some of the driving ability out of some of these guys, because you always know that Daniel Suarez he's got talent behind the wheel. Everybody forgets that he was an Xfinity Series champion way back in 2016, 2017.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Right in there, long time ago, right? But in terms of that, the drivers, Joey Logano was a sleeper all week. He kept telling everybody he was fast. That that he was going to get a chance to win. And the biggest thing for me is what the hell happened to Truex in the last restart, because that ruined my fantasy team. Because when he was running third, I was way up there, and then all of a sudden, just boom, he went in the corner and went from third to 19th or 21st or something like that, and ruined my day.
So here's what all you guys need to be prepared for next is. Truex said maybe he missed his calling. Because he hadn't done this before, or not much at all. And, we saw the success of Logano. He's been, dabbling in this a little bit. And hell, if I was Suarez, I'd go run a dirt late model or something the way that, you run these big old heavy boxes around there. You've got some skills on that track. But I hope that everyone is prepared for an influx of these NASCAR guys starting to get into some of this other stuff, popping up at your, weekly tracks or whatever. I hope we're ready. I hope everybody's ready for that. And that's, but the bottom line is it's great exposure for dirt, which they deserve, because I'm not going to sit here. I know, one thing that I'm thinking about this weekend is I'll be back calling asphalt again. And I was telling somebody this the other day, something that I need to be prepared for. And Bobby, you can probably relate to this after doing Texana the other night. Dirt, when you're calling dirt, it's like da 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 da. This week, I need to be prepared for, I don't have to do that, because there's not quite as much action. So, I don't know. It's a success. It got a thumbs up. I guess that's where we'll leave it.
I think so. I think that the success that, the Frankenstein's monster work, bringing in the dirt, making it work at Bristol. It's one thing for the Bristol Dirt Nationals to work because that's a bunch of dirt cars. It's going to be another thing here in a couple of weeks when they take the World of Outlaw cars back there because they've done it before and it was a success. So Frankenstein's Monster bringing the dirt to Bristol, I think, was a successful venture enough to make it try it again. I'm shocked that they're going to do it again in 2022 with the sports car. That's going to be the kicker to find out which car they're going to use. Just because there's no way you're going to take one of those brand new sports cars with independent rear suspension, 18-inch aluminum wheels, and try to run it on that dirt track. I don't know how the hell they plan on doing that.
They'll break those. I mean, they will break those wheels. I mean, and that's with the one nut, and I know the one nut has to be on there, that they will disintegrate those wheels. I can promise you that. So I really think that they probably will. I mean, develop. I mean, these teams have the current car, Gen whatever it is. Develop this thing and let's, because they can learn from it. They can learn from it. But I do have to tell you, I mean, it was, I think, being that these cars are not in any form or fashion built for this, I think that they did okay. I mean, the cars held up well. I was concerned about the overheating, and when we're going right off the bat, and you know, we saw Kyle Busch overheating with everything happening right there, the opening there, the front cowling. I thought that was really going to be a problem, but you got to hand it to these teams that I think they did exceptionally well, given that they were kind of blind going into this. And I don't know, Bobby, we talked about the ace in the hole. The ace in the hole. Why was Truex so good? Why do you think? Why do you think he was so good? He had Blake. He had Blake there.
He had Blake with him.
He had Blake with him.
He was definitely helping him in the truck race. I think that showed the way he dominated that truck race, just because he literally put an ass whooping on him, won both stages, and then won the race. But I think that it. I mean, I would like to get Blake's interpretation of what he thought of Bristol. That'd be kind of fun. Maybe try to get him on in the next couple of weeks or so. But that's going to be Easter weekend, so it'd be kind of hard to get a hold of him. But next week it's going to be hard to get somebody on the show for Saturday.
Yes, I've been working on that today, and the exact word that I've gotten is everybody is spreading out. So yes, it's going to be very tough on the Saturday show. Dale, saying North Wilkesboro, I don't know about that. I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, but the whole thing is with North Wilkesboro on dirt, is it all comes back to infrastructure, and it's not there. And as Jeff Hammond said, and we're not name dropping here, it's a great interview with Jeff Hammond. If you haven't, it's at RevvedUpSportsShow.com. Go chase the interviews down. Like Jeff Hammond said, it's a great little place, and that's the problem there. So I don't know. Maybe somebody throws money into this, but I mean, there's got to be somewhere else that they're possibly gonna do another dirt track race. But for Bristol, congratulations, you had yourself a good race, and that's, I think, maybe this is not the rebirth, maybe this is the rebrand of it's Bristol, baby, that makes it. I mean, there were people fired up. I mean, there were seriously people fired up about this that I thought wouldn't be.
And I think that's part of it too. There was tons of people that we know that we were thinking that are diehard asphalt fans that were definitely ready for the race at Bristol to happen. Whether that was watching in anticipation to see if it was going to fail. I think a lot of people were interested because of that. You know, it's kind of like the old Howard Stern analogy. Yeah. There were more people listening to Howard Stern to find out what he was going to say to offend them next than people that listened to Howard Stern for people that enjoyed the show. So I think that could have been playing a little bit part of it. The ratings will just suck because it was on a Monday, right? Yeah. We're never going to know the true impact of the race because of the fact Mother Nature rained it out. So yeah. I think that all in all, I think, you know, with the weather and the move in the day and some of that stuff, I would have loved to see in the heat races and passing points. But I think all in all, I think they got it as good as they could for the first try at everything. So yeah. So we'll see. That actually says Marcus Smith made an announcement. So we'll confirm that up and try to get the intel on that. I mean, hell. I mean, it's there. I mean, the place is there. It needs work. I mean, retrofit it that way. Needs a hell of a lot of work.
Southern Super Series this weekend. If you were a leader, it was not very good for you because leaders, Stephen Nossie and Kyle Plott, just kept they were leading and they ran into trouble. And Corey Heim wins. He passes Hunter Robbins with 25 to go, wins it over Jake Garcia and Jeremy Pate there. Bobby, quickly to that here before we get looched at 6:30. The thing that I go to with that, and again that race there at Crisp, No Bubba Pollard, no Casey Roderick. Should we be concerned?
I don't know. I mean, it'll give the chance for some more stars to step up into that. I mean, that's why you had Hunter Robbins running in there. That's why you had the eventual winner racing up there for the to get a chance to win that race.
Yeah.
And so I think that it becomes the Casey deal is not as surprising to me just because he's starting to run the big races. Not that any Southern Super Series race is not a big race,
right?
But I think there's certain events on the calendar that take a little bit more prestige. I mean, I probably see him running the Blizzard Series more so than the full-fledged Southern Super Series. So probably the same thing with Bubba Pollard. Bubba Pollard made a new racetrack schedule coming out. He's racing all over the country in multiple different cars. So I don't think we need to be concerned per se. Maybe the Southern Super Series needs to be concerned, but I think you'll see all these guys show up for the Blizzard Series races there at Five Flags.
Yeah, so 17 cars in that race. Then with the CRA Pro Late models, Christopher Tullis, he kind of had some rough luck there at the end of the Baby Rattler, but he is able to win that one over Nasi and Brandon Brilliant there. So and Justin Bonnet with a fifth place finish there as well. So you had a nice card there at the Georgia Spring Nationals, and this too as well. We'll start to get cranked up opening night. We've got. On Saturday, we'll be over at Houston with the Gulf Coast Racing Series. It's going to take a while to be able to let that roll off, but you'll have that, and then obviously on Friday night you get Five Flags cranked up. So we're fixing to get the blacktop stuff going.
We're fixing to now. I think as far as would we be concerned with some of the late model racing, depending on how many people show up at that border battle. The North versus the South, CRA versus the Southern Super Series.
Yep.
That will tell me whether or not you need to be concerned about super late model racing in the South, as if you don't have a Casey Roderick or a Bubba Pollard at a race of that magnitude.
Yeah, and it very well could be. I mean, to travel like these guys do, I mean, this is a lot of travel. I mean, for these guys. I mean, I know we say, the Gulf Coast or whatever, but still, the states are all clumped together. But, I mean, still, it's a
long way from Pensacola to North Georgia.
Dude, it's a lot. It's a lot. So some of that has to factor in here as well. And as we talked about, I mean, and again, I'm referring to interviews because folks, it's really nice, Bobby, that folks reaffirm the shit that we say, because we just kind of shoot from the cuff. But the other day when you asked Dillner about that, or Matthew Dillner that was on with us on the Saturday show, it's one of the things when we talk about super late model racing and so forth. I mean, this is very much a profession for these folks, and it has gotten very costly. So you have to figure transportation, travel, all of that for these guys to do. I mean, it's a shit ton.
It's a lot of money to race. Just think of the tire bill alone. I mean, we've talked to Chris Davidson before, who wants everything gone to a one-day show so people aren't having to buy 3 or 4 sets of tires. It's not that you want to, it's that you have to. And the reason you have to is because the other guys are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the pink radiator cap syndrome. If one guy has the pink radiator cap and he starts winning, then everybody's going to want the pink radiator cap. And it becomes a must-have until the track says, no, it can't be a pink radiator cap. It's got to be a blue one.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's part of it. Everybody wants to buy tires because they have to buy tires with the way that the practice is set up there a day early on a Friday and a Saturday. And, think about how many. I mean, I expect to use a bunch of tires at the Derby, right? That's a different event on its own. But you got to figure some of these guys show up on a Friday for practice, and the track loves it because it gets money for the track when the track has the gates open with race cars on it.
Yeah, exactly. Greg Carlucci Jr. coming up in about 5 minutes. He will be on in about 5 minutes. He'll jump on, and we'll talk about the craze that was once again. It was hugely popular in 1993, but hell, it was really popular last Monday as the Flying Carlucci returned. And we'll talk more about CC Speedway as we honor that great old quarter-mile bull ring. Cotton Bowl Speedway, great night out there as well. Chris Morris wins in the modifieds, and congratulations, Cotton Bowl, because they're doing a really good job of pulling in modifieds. There's about a 13-car field there at CBS, so they're constantly, and one of the things what CBS has done well, it's one of the things we were talking about on Saturday night, is CBS has done a good job because CBS has their pool of racers. And one of the things that we were saying was you have the racers from CBS that just race there. I mean, they don't travel around, and that's great. I mean, that's loyalty to the home track. I mean, that's totally good. I mean, when you think of the economics like we're talking about, you just race in one place, and CBS has done a really good job with that. It really shows in the modifieds. Very exciting win for Robert Stewart in Sport Mods. Is man, he 6.58 second win there in that one, and I was laughing with our friend Tiffany because Tiffany Vogel was saying she said that she wished that she could, like, because I said 6.58 seconds was the lead, and she's like, I wish there was a way that I could have told him that, because I was waiting for something to go wrong. You know, he had no idea how big the advantage was. Marcus Hartcrow, freshly off of the Revved Up Sports Show, wins in the iStocks. Stephen Doty in the factory stocks. CJ Gray once again in the street stocks, another good win. And Dylan Kowalik in the Sport Compact. So I'll tell you, Dirt's got a good thing going, man, because there's plenty of cars, plenty of tracks, and everybody seems to have healthy car counts.
Yeah, they really do. Everybody seems to have enough of the cars to go around. I mean, it was a decent field of big mods down there at Edna on Saturday night. Not I don't think it was quite to 13. I think it was 10 or 11 they had down there. So that was a pretty good show. But yeah, I mean, Cotton Bowl's always had its core group of racers that race the tracks. You don't see the guys that tour a whole lot out of there, but that's been the key component. I mean, and it's the same thing at every track. You're going to have the same guys that you see at Edna that only run Edna. They don't have a chance to tour around a lot, but they have their little core group of guys. So you see that at every racetrack, and I'm not overly abundantly concerned about the aspect of having, just the core group. There's guys that are always going to take their stuff and travel once they get to a certain point, but I think it all works itself out in the end.
And that's why they call it the home track. The home track. Speaking of home tracks, we talked last week about it kind of sucks. CC Speedway, we're losing that one. We're watching it being torn apart here, just kind of piece by piece, as this has started to happen here, and we had just an outcry, super excitement there as we had the Flying Carlucci on the screen last week, and people went crazy. And on the Revved Up Sports Show hotline now, we actually have the Flying Carlucci. It is Greg Carlucci Jr. Greg, man, were they blowing you up saying, "Hey, dude, your video's on again"?
No, actually, the first person I heard it from was you.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's good. That's good, because that thing started floating around, and I'm like, okay. But how are things for you guys? Everybody good?
We're good. We're good. Been busy building a new shop for the race car and some other stuff, but haven't even had time to work on it and get it ready. We should be ready by the opener at STS here in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Nice.
So, Greg, we're here to talk about CC Speedway, but let's talk about yourself first. Obviously, you've been around the sport for a long time. Talk about how you got involved with it and how you got all the way up to running at CC Speedway.
Oh, man, I was there. And it's funny because my dad likes to tell this story. He used to carry beer into the track in my diaper bag, at CC Speedway. So, I grew up at that place. That was my home away from home every Saturday night. So I followed in his footsteps. My Uncle Joey raced with Terry back in the early 70s. And then my dad started in 77, 78, right in there. And then, back then, you couldn't start racing until you had a driver's license. So I was chomping at the bit, but I had to wait till I was 16. And as soon as I turned 16, he let me take the reins and step back and just became crew chief. And man, I was thinking it's 30 years and now I'm like the old guy and kind of sucks, but
oh yeah. It happens quick, dude.
now I'm getting outrun by, these kids that are, 14, 15, 16, man, and they're good drivers, but like, man,
yeah,
where did the time go?
Yeah, it's like a culture shock when that shit starts happening. So with CC Speedway, and we were talking about it last week, I think so much of that was, I mean, we'll talk about the racing and all the fun stuff, but I mean, so much of that was just that damn community, man. Because like in that video, which we'll probably run here in a little bit, when all that happens, I mean, you see the fans, man. They were just, we said last week, a lot of times the best show at CC Speedway was hell in the damn crowd.
Yeah, and I think Lawrence hit on it a little bit. I was listening to the show, and that was the thing back then. I mean, pretty much every Saturday night you were going to have somebody get into it with somebody else, and there was going to be a fight, and you know, that's the way I was raised. You know, it was just that was short track racing back then. You know, you hear a lot about, you know, Rick and Terry, how they, you know, got into it quite a bit, and you know, I remember, you know, Monty and John Heineman, they went after it, you know, week after week, and you know, you kind of expected it, and you know, that, like you said, that was just kind of the culture back in the day. That, you know, it was a rougher crowd, and you know, nobody backed down. But the difference was, you know, back then you expected it. The guys fought, but it was over with, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the next week you went on, and that was just kind of the norm. It was kind of like a hockey fight, you know. The first one gets knocked down, and it's over, and you move on and you keep playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, that's a great point. That is a great point.
You know, but it's, you know, that's been kind of an adjustment from, you know, then to now, is, you know, that the driving styles are different, you know, and it's not as rough, you know, which is a good thing. I mean, you know, you don't get as much, you know, stuff tore up, but when you grow up in that, you know, era and watch that kind of racing, and you know, you learn to drive that way, and then nowadays if you you know, bump somebody or rub them the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
they just want to gripe about it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what do you think make that change, Greg? I mean, is it just the way that the culture shifted in racing? I mean, a lot of times you see the newer kids that come in, and we see it more on the asphalt side, where they just show up with daddy's checkbook and have an old school racer as a crew chief, and they tear up a car, and next thing you know, they come back to the racetrack the next week, and there's another car sitting there. I mean, does that have
Yeah.
anything to do with the way that it changed?
I think so. You know, for me, and you know, you kind of hit on it there, is back then I didn't pay the bill.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
You know, and
That's right.
and you know, as I, you know, aged and had to start, you know, footing the bill, and you know, like, you don't want to go up and tear up your crap every week,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But you know, I was never in a position to where I had that kind of money or those kind of cars, you know. I was always kind of the poor boy racing, you know, and I still am, you know. I don't take food off the table to put, you know, parts on a race car. You know, I put the parts I can afford, and we go out there and we race with what we got, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the way, you know, I was raised. You know, I talk about my dad a lot because I learned a lot from him. But back then, if there's something, you know, that needed to be fixed on the race car, he would sit there for 4 hours and put something together from scraps that he found in the garage, instead of going to the parts store and buying the part he needed for $10, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just the way, you know, he was.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's really exactly the way it used to be. And so with CC Speedway, I mean, even though folks got crossed up, I mean, talk about when you were behind the wheel. Talk about some of the guys. I mean, that because it was so damn good back then, because you had the Austin group, and you had the San Antonio group, and then you had the Corpus group. And, you know, every now and then everybody could get together. But, I mean, talk about some of those folks that you raced with that were, whether you were pissed off at each other or not, were just some of the best competitors.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about that. You know, I've been racing so long that I've probably crossed ways with just about everybody I've raced with. But nowadays, you know, we're all friends. You know, our kids are racing together now. Our grandkids, you know, kids, you know, whatever, they're all racing go-karts or in, you know, big cars. And, you know, now those same people, I can go to them and say, hey, bud, you know, you got a shock or a spring I can borrow. And it's like, you know, that's all bygone. So, and that's the way it is. You know, no matter what happens on the track, you know, drivers and racers are always family.
So Greg, you talked about getting into it with everybody occasionally, every now and then. So you know it's pretty crazy. My phone's been blown up to ask this question, so I get to ask it first. You know that it's crazy when your name gets turned into a verb. So how did the term "you got looched" get started?
Well, I mean, we're talking about CC Speedway, quarter mile bull ring,
Rough,
but
smooth surface.
the way the lineups were that if you were high point, you had to start in the back, and so that's the way it always was. And so I mean, if you're out there and you have decent finishes, you're going to be high in points and you're going to be starting towards the back. And in a 25 lap race, if you're trying to pass 20 cars, you're talking about a car a lap. I mean, that's just the way it was. You had to use your bumper, and I wasn't out there to make friends. I'm not going to run somebody over, but I was not afraid to use my bumper. And so, and bump and run or get them out of the way. I didn't totally spin them or wreck them, but it just got to the point to where, man, I got to go, and I think Lawrence touched on it too. It was, it's somebody had told him, hey, I bumped you a couple times. That's all the warning I'm going to give you,
Yeah.
And so, I guess I used my front bumper quite a bit. So somebody finally said, "Damn, man, you lynched me," and it just stuck, and then it went around and everybody's saying it. And then, the joke was like, yeah, I was watching the NASCAR race and Tony Stewart said he got looched, it's just over, everybody, got to know the term is, hey, if I'm behind you, you're probably going to get bumped.
Yeah. But isn't it, Greg? I mean, that's the way you had to race there. I mean, because that track, I mean, like I said, that super smooth surface was one thing, but I mean, there wasn't a lot of room, and that wall. I mean, you get up too high, and that son of a bitch would get you. I mean, I made 2 laps and hit that thing, but it was that's the way you had to, and that's how we raced back then.
Yeah, I know it was. It all depended on the class and the tire. When we got on those slicks, everybody was fast and it was hard to pass, and, you could sit there and follow the guy when you're a quarter, second faster than them, or you could use your bumper.
Yeah.
We how the rules evolve, every year, and the bombers become pure stocks, and then eventually the pure stocks become hobbies. And
right.
And, we got to a point in the late 90s to where we were running the aftermarket bodies and we were late models, but the car count went away.
Mm-hmm.
And Don Yoakum, came in and said, you know what, we're getting rid of this late model class and we're going back to, street stocks. And, it phased out a lot of guys because they had late models that they couldn't run anymore. And so I went to San Antonio and I ran up there a little bit. And then I finally went back to CC, but we were running on street tires at that point. And man, I tell you, it made a world of difference at the racing at that track, because when you got to run, on a street tire, you actually have to drive the car. We got off those slicks and man, it made for great racing. We had 2, even 3 wide racing, because on those tires, it didn't matter, engine didn't matter. Even if you were off on setup a little bit, you could still run up to the front, passing on the high side. And I think that was the best racing we had there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So we're here talking about CC Speedway. What was your reaction when you got to race at San Antonio Speedway? You talk about alter egos there. You got the small quarter mile bull ring there in Corpus with the high banks and the big high banks there and high speeds at Highway 16. I mean, what was the initial reaction you had trying to change your driving style, or did you have to change your driving style when you got to the bigger track?
We went up there with our setup because we didn't know any better. We changed the gear and went up there and ran. And, we ran decent up there. I won a race. We would normally just go run the Oktoberfest races, and I would always finish top 5. Our car just kind of liked that track, even with the CC Speedway setup. We didn't change much. And the biggest shock is, we're running caution laps as fast as we're running, race laps at CC Speedway.
Yeah.
Dang, these guys are, caution laps are 40 or 50 miles per hour,
Yeah.
But I loved San Antonio. That was such a fun track, that high bank, and you fly up in there and you just gas it and, run off. And It was totally different from CC, but in the same respect, it was a lot of the same. It's just faster speeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that I like to talk about all the time is I think that Corpus Christi is so underrated when we talk about Austin, Houston, San Antonio, all the great drivers. You guys, yourself included, right at the top of the list. There have been so many whether it's passed down through the family, like yourself. I mean, so many great families are in Corpus Christi. I mean, you got the Heinemans, you got the Flanagans. I mean, the list just goes on and on. People just don't realize how many damn great race car drivers are in that CC area.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how you think about it. A lot of the guys running today are all third, fourth generation drivers, the Rise, that there's still, Davenport's related to, Dub Rollins, back from 60s and 70s at CC Speedway. And like you said, the Flanagans and the Heinemans are still out there. And now we got our kids out there. And it just kind of something that my dad always said, racing's in the blood. Once it gets in the blood and you go out there and you run a few laps, it's very, very few people that I know that started racing that are, completely out of it now. And you just kind of stick with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very true.
So Greg, was it more fun racing with your dad, or is it more fun racing with your son after all these years? And can you tell a difference now? Do you have a preference?
Well, I haven't had the chance to race with Ryan yet. So that's coming. It's got to come sooner or later. But
yeah,
man, those were some of the funnest times racing with my dad. Back in the early 2000s, we had the chance to get, two cars, and and we treated each other the same as we treated everybody else.
You looched him.
Yeah, we came across the finish line side by side. He beat me by a bumper. I ended up in the infield, and he ended up in the front straightaway wall. And that was just, we didn't back down from each other. I mean, we were both out there to do, to win, and that was it. And that's the way he taught me, and that's the way I'm teaching Ryan. Of course, now I'm, Ryan, we got to take care of our equipment,
Right.
And the dirt's different. See, South Texas is different, and every dirt track I've been to is different. You don't have to go out there and be so aggressive. You can race, there's multiple grooves, and you don't have to go run into somebody, knock them out of your way to pass them. I wish Ryan had the opportunity to run CC Speedway, but I think that's an experience, and I think it teaches you a lot about driving a race car.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity he's never going to get.
Yeah. Talk about some of the guys over the years. I mean, we talked about Donnie Yoakum. I mean, there was so many guys that ran that racetrack that kept it going over the years, and that's always that's always the shittiest job to have. Where you're the promoter. I mean, because you can't be anybody's friend, or you shouldn't be. Then you slip up and become somebody's friend, and all that crap starts. But at times, I imagine that got just a little bit turbulent for you guys.
Yeah. Back in the day, we would bitch about this, bitch about that, but I think the one that really showed me, what it's like to actually be a track promoter and owner is Owen Pittman. Seeing, the things he did, because he and I are friends. We didn't start off as friends, but now we're great friends, and that's a good dude, and that's a great promoter. But before that, you don't, as a race car driver, you don't see all the crap that they go through.
Yeah.
And so now when I go to the track, even if I do have an issue, I try. Can't say I'm always tight-lipped, but I try to keep my bitching to a minimum. But like, you talked about, Frank Ho ran it, and Dick Lundstrom ran it back in the 80s, and then Donnie Yoakum, and then Owen ran it, and we had a couple people in between, and then Dan took over, and I guess I got to be grateful for as many years as that track stuck around, because I know, tracks just don't stick around that long these days.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, Greg, you talk about it being different with the communities and the families and stuff that race there at CC Speedway. Does it transition over to South Texas Speedway? I mean, because when we used to run Longhorn back in the day, we'd go somewhere else and be like, this place just doesn't have what Longhorn had, or some of the people from San Antonio would be like, this track is great, but it doesn't have what San Antonio had. Do you guys feel that way when you go to the dirt track, or is there enough of the transplants from CC Speedway that are running the dirt track now where you can still say this, South Texas Speedway still has the same feeling as a race at Corpus Christi Speedway?
Yeah, of course, nothing's going to be CC Speedway, but half the people there were asphalt drivers, and so you're seeing the same people, and even though these drivers are converting from asphalt to dirt, they still drive the same. I know when I'm driving, against Larry Smith, I know I raced him for years on the asphalt, so I know how he's going to run on the dirt. I know that he's going to respect me, and I'm going to respect him, because we drove together for so many years on the asphalt. And most of these drivers, like I said, Steve Grants, Larry Smith, Chuck Barber, the Heineman, Joey's running in factory stock with Ryan now. And Joey made a comment, and he said, this is the third generation of Carlucci I've raced against.
It's crazy, man. That is crazy.
So, even though it's a different track, different surface, you still get the same kind of feel because we're all Corpus drivers, Corpus family.
Yeah.
We're just on an island down here. We're not like San Antonio or Austin where we can go 2 hours in any direction, and find a track. There's not very many tracks we can run. We're going north anywhere we go. And so it just makes this community kind of a special community of racers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've always thought that it was cool, and we'll get to your rivals and all this here in just a little bit about CC Speedway. But I always thought that it was cool about you guys because all these places that you're talking about, hell, we're doing good to keep one track open. And if you really think about it, hell, San Antonio ain't got one, Austin ain't got one, because Cotton Bowl is not Austin. But Corpus, and this goes back to all the great racers. You guys would have pavement and dirt at the same damn time. So if you got pissed off at Frank Ho, you go run dirt.
Yeah. That's how I ended up at the dirt.
It's crazy. That is crazy. It's crazy.
If you're a true blooded racer, you're going to find somewhere to race. And we don't have a choice. We're going to run either asphalt or dirt. And a lot of guys can't afford to travel every week. And like I said, if we're going to travel, we're going to travel a ways. We had San Antonio, but without San Antonio, we're going up. Now we have Pleasanton, thankfully. But, back then, if we were going to race somewhere, we had to go 2 or 3 hours at least, every Saturday, and so we're going to make it work here in Corpus one way or another if we want to race. And I think that has a lot to do with it.
For sure.
So Rodney mentioned rivalries. Let's talk about some of your rivalries over the year. Well, obviously, we got over the hump of
I didn't have any rivalries.
Yeah, right.
None of them, right? Y'all were all going to church on Sundays.
I'm fixing to show a video, and we'll talk about that here.
We didn't have. I used to tell people it's just all for entertainment. That's how we sell tickets.
That's well done, man. That's extremely well done. Extremely well done. Who was it? Who got under your skin the most?
Who got under my skin the most?
He's thinking. So many.
You gotta narrow it down.
Hell, you can list them all if you want. I'm sure at some point they'll.
Well, I know. Yeah, we got to go with decade by decade or.
Oh man, you just.
I can't say. Most of the guys that I had issues with, I can run against them today, and we'd have no problem. There's probably 2 or 3 guys that I wouldn't. I'd let the fire crew get them out of their car if they were on fire. But
well,
like I said, you age, you get older, and you forgive and forget. When I was a kid, and I put a lot of it on myself. I was a teenager. I got thrown into a car in a class with, like I said earlier, I ran against Bruce Beto, Larry Smith, Chuck
Wow.
Barber, both of the Heinemans. I ran against guys that were fast and they were good. And if I was going to run up front,
Yeah.
I had to, we had to have our shit together, and that made me the driver I became, because I was running against guys that, shit, Joey, you put him in anything and he'll,
Mhm.
he goes out there and runs up front still, with
Yeah.
his old ass.
That's right.
You
That's
know?
right. And sometimes he tears shit up.
Joey and I were, he was one of the main guys, the Heinemans and Carlucci's, him and John both. I was running against both of those guys. They both had their Lumina, late model bodied cars, and I was out there with my Camaro, and they would, they would gang up on me, but when Joey wrecked and he flipped and he had that bad wreck at South Texas,
Yeah.
I was one of the first ones there,
Yeah.
Those guys are, like I said, we've all got kids now and they're all running against each other, and it's just a different time.
Yeah. But honestly, I mean, because I would see it here in Austin, and then because we would, and seriously, Greg, when we would go to CC to watch, I mean, it felt like when we would go in there, it was like we were going to a boxing match or something. Not because of the fighting, but just because of the buildup. I mean, because we'd sit in the stands, my dad and I, and we'd listen, and it's like, well, last week so and so or whatever, and it was just like this whole buildup, and I mean that really that track was full all the damn time, just because of what could happen.
Yeah, when the pits were on the other end, I think Lawrence mentioned it, but when the pits were on the other end, you could watch from the top of the grandstand and you could see the whole pit. So if there was a fight anywhere in that pit area, you were going to see it. And so people knew that. And turn one was the place to sit.
Yeah.
Like, you sat over there expecting something to happen, but I mean, I saw so many, and I remember my mom holding me back, my dad and some guy, and I don't remember his name, but they were fighting out in the parking lot after the races, and I'm trying to get in the fight. My mom's having to hold me back, and I'm like 5 years old, I'm like, and I think about it now, like, what the hell are you doing? But it was just, that's what I saw and what I was used to, and there was, before I started racing, Whitaker and my dad had a rivalry, and Bruce Beto and my dad had a rivalry, and I can't, most of the fights I saw, half of them were involving my dad, I think, but but he wasn't the only one. There was a lot of, and like you said, it was just that kind of culture, you expected, and when you went out there, and I think that's why they sold a lot of tickets, it was that mentality of, hey, you guys go out there and fight. Whoever, the crowd thinks won, we'll give them a 12-pack, and I think that drew a lot of people to the races.
I'm sure it did.
It's like NASCAR, you want to see that kind of stuff, and everybody likes the wrecks, but they also like the drama on the side. And I just think that draws a crowd.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. Perfect stuff.
Yeah. So, Greg, one of Rodney and mine's best races is the original Texas Stock Car Spectacular that happened there in Corpus that Brian and Irvin put on years ago. And you had all the big dogs from San Antonio, all the big dogs from Corpus, and the super stocks and the late models, and all you heavy hitters down in Corpus. And everybody was down there all at one time. If the memory serves me correctly, you were driving a new car to you that you bought from David Cook in Austin, when you had that black number 34. But what was the mindset of that when you guys found out that everybody was going to come to your home track? Granted, both races were run by hometown guys, but I mean, what were you guys thinking way back in the day? Was it like, well, we got to defend our turf, or was it like, this is going to be a kick-ass show and it's going to be a great race?
I think it was both. There's a story that leads into that. The end of the season, that was the first year I won a championship out there. And I was 19, and the season ending, they gave us the trophies at intermission, and then we went out there in the feature, and me and Dan Monroe were running first and second, and it got rough, just like it normally does at CC, and we got together, and I ended up on my top,
Oh, shit.
and totaled the car out. Well, it wasn't, I think a few weeks later that the spectacular race was, and I didn't have a car, and Randy Lawing had bought that car from Cook, and he said, "Hey man, I'm in no position to run this car." He said, "You want to run it?" I said, "Well, hell yeah, And so we put our motor and everything in it, and went out there. But we had always run those 8-inch recaps.
Yeah.
And we were never on the Hoosier. I think they were the F53s.
That's the ones. Yeah, that's slick.
And so I got the car, and my dad and Norman and Billy and my crew thrashed and got it together. We put our motor in it. And that was the first time I'd ever run with power steering. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, once you get used to it, get used to it, yeah.
Yeah. We had a lot of caster in the car, made it easy to turn. But man, when I got that power steering, I said, no, I'm never running without it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I go back to, we just didn't have a lot of money to spend at the time, and all these guys were coming to town, and I was excited, but my dad said, "Hey, the weather's not looking good," because it was supposed to rain.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said, "I'm not spending $500 on tires if we're not going to be able to use them." I said, "Well, okay, well, we'll wait and see what it does." Well, we were there that day, and sure enough, the weather, cleared up, and they were going to race. Well, we bought the tires, and we found out for the first time that racing tires aren't as easy to mount as the tires we can run.
Oh, y'all did them by hand like we used to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the first time I actually ran on those tires was qualifying.
Wow.
And so I went out there, and we didn't qualify worth a crap, and we had to start in the back. And then it was Tommy. Oh, y'all had mentioned last week, Tommy was running both races. He ran the 99 in the hobby class, and 19 in our class.
Oh, that's right, the white car. Yeah,
the white and purple car. And he took a hard ride into the pits at the last minute, and I couldn't avoid him, and I cut a left front, and then we had to get it changed, and I was in the back, and I was just making laps at that point. And but that's when I learned that taking care of your tires benefits you at the end of the race, because at the end of the race, I was as fast as the leaders, even though I was running like 10th or 11th, but just running in the back and not having to run hard. And, those guys have been battling each other the whole race. And I'm just kind of cruising and making laps, getting used to this thing. And then, I actually learned a lot. But that's one of my biggest regrets, is I think if we had some time, that was a great car. That Cook car was fast.
Yeah.
But if I had a few more laps behind it, I think we could have, been up there with those guys. But that was the coolest thing, just like you said, having all the tracks together. And that's the first time I got to experience running against Bindley's and Harelka and those guys from, Austin. And it was really, that was a cool deal. That was only my 3rd or 4th year of racing, but to see all those cars on that track, all those, and there were some badass cars there.
Yeah, there were.
A
bunch of them.
And I wish we could have carried it on. I was glad to see, Kyle, ran the spectacular a few times, and it wasn't the same as CC, but
no, even close.
It carried over. There was still a lot of Corpus guys there, and there were some San Antonio guys there, so that was pretty cool too. Kyle, wasn't even close. I mean, the feeling of it. I mean, we went down, and that was the first year I actually raced. I went down there and got to run in the hobby class, and that was like, I mean, one of my best memories ever. But so you ran against my dad in the hobby class.
I did. I did. Yeah. I sure did. Yeah. So thinking about that, I mean, when all of that was starting to happen, you're starting to see a little bit of technology there, if you want to call it, even with a racing tire. But man, going back to CC Speedway, to me was you guys with the super streets, with a recap or a street tire in the steel bodied cars. And I mean, you guys line up 15, 16, 17, 18, however many people. that to me, and I mean, I know there were all pro races there. I mean, we went to all pro races and saw all of that. But to me, was you guys in the super streets, and then you had the bombers, and then you had all of that. To me, that is CC Speedway. That is the legend of CC Speedway.
Yeah. And I think, even though I cursed Don Yoakum at the time.
Yeah.
I think the street tire thing was the way to go for that track.
Really
it just
was.
made the driver have to drive the car, and you found out who the drivers were. You could take a car that didn't have the motor, didn't have the setup, but you had to drive the thing, and then you put a set of those slicks on, and the guy that was running in the back with the same setup, now he's running, up front, and those tires just make a big difference. And you can run the high side. I mean, starting in the back every week, you had to learn to pass on the outside. And I hear people say, "Oh, that was a one groove track and follow the leader racing." The hell it was.
Exactly.
Most of the people I passed was on the high side. Yeah, because I didn't have a choice. I mean, I could sit there and follow them and bump them out of the way or whatever, or I could go to the high side and take out 2 or 3 cars in one lap. Especially like on the restarts, everybody wanted to stay down low.
Yep.
And I would dive in there, run the high side, and come out 3 spots ahead of where I was. And that was the badass thing about that track is it really was. You did have a low groove and a high groove.
Yeah.
If you were just willing to take it.
What was the key? What was the key to? I figured it out in a dwarf way at the end, but in a big car, I really never did because I only ran a big car once. What was the key to getting around that damn place so fast? Because I mean, you had the you had the bumps, you had whatever it was, but how in the hell? I mean, when folks talk about you would diamond San Antonio and do all this other stuff. How in the hell did you get around CC so damn fast?
I don't know. I don't know if that just came with experience, or what. But every lap was the same. My dad always said just be smooth and be smart. Yeah. And that's what I would do. I'd go in and every lap was pretty much identical. And it just got to the point to where, and then you learn the track and you come in and I knew exactly what I needed to do to my car to make it run, faster for the feature. And guys are changing springs and shocks and this and that. And I'm just, I'm making little changes here and there.
Yeah.
Just because I was so comfortable with that track and my, it's not same from week to week, but it didn't take much, just minor changes to make the car run. So, and I never used the diamond, technique. I know some of them guys drove that way. I never drove that way. I just rounded the corners. I drove in smooth and just, feathered the throttle off and got in as fast as I could. And that's the way I ran.
Yep. Did it well. Real damn good, as a matter of fact.
So, Greg, now we got to ask you about the famous video. I don't know how it lines up where I'm the one that has to ask all the tough questions about being the definition behind being looched and now talking about the flying Carlucci video. When we looked at that thing last week, it looked like you had already unbuckled the second you hit the wall because you were running at a track speed that we had never seen before when you went for the dive. So walk us through that whole thing because it's kind of like that John Heil incident with the fire extinguisher. There's got to be more to the story than just slapping
it's playing
car and hauling ass.
And it's playing. So if you happen to watch it, there may be a delay, but it's going. It's playing right now again.
Y'all are watching it now.
Yeah.
No, I was at the river the week before that, and my dad was driving my car, and the motor blew up. And I called him Sunday morning and said, "How'd the races go, Dad?" He said, "Well, we blew the motor." I said, "Well, crap, we're done. We only had one motor." Well, a guy from Portland came out and said, "Hey, I got a motor you can use, we'll let you borrow it." So we threw it in the car. And I went out there and I had a few people come up and say, "Hey, there's this car out here. It's got Bounty Hunter on it. And they're out to get you." And so I said, "Okay, well, if they're out to get me, let them get me." And so I went out there and found out that motor wasn't all that great. It fell on its face about halfway down the straightaway. And So I passed him the first time and he tried to door me and then spun out, and I realized, yeah, this guy is out to get me. So I was coming up on him again. I figured, well, if I go on the inside of him, he's going to try to do the same thing, and then he's not going to be able to do anything with me. And so I was passing him, and then got by him, and then I'm going down the straightaway. And of course, that motor falls on his face, and he gets up under me and puts me in the wall. And of course, I had already anticipated it because everybody told me it was going to happen. So I don't know if y'all can hear me. I'm out in the wind.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
And so shit, as soon as it happened, I was already ready to go. I was already fired up. So, of course, I'm 17 years old. I mean, this was it was in 1993, man. I was, played sports and shit. I had like I was just saying I was fast. I'm not so fast anymore.
Dude, I tell you, it just happened. I mean, it was perfect the way you described it because you got stuck in the wall and you just rolled over. So it's like you hauled ass.
I'm running and I see the dude trying to get out of his car, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm timing this perfect, and I'm gonna clothesline this guy as soon as he gets out. Well, it didn't happen that way. I bounced over the car and landed on my head, but got right up, and then we went to fighting. And then the announcer says the Flying Carlucci, and well, the name stuck for almost 30 years now.
Did you hurt yourself?
How long are you guys going to be on?
Break any bones?
No, I bruised my thighs. No broken bones. No bent knees. Nothing like that. Just bruised thighs.
No, if you need to go, dude, it's totally cool. I just wanted to be sure.
I got a paramedic emergency here. I'm going to go take care of it real quick,
good.
And I'll be right back.
You're good. Totally good. All right, man. Thanks so much. I forgot.
Perfect timing.
I forgot. He has a real job. He has a. But did you notice right there as he was describing that? And for those of you that don't know, we sit and laugh and joke and all about this, but he's a paramedic, so that's thank him for that, because that's one of those frontline things that we talk about where that's one of those jobs. But
at least we got it right. That's the main thing. We hope the call he's going to, everything's going to be all right with the call. But at least we got it right. We got him just in the nick of time.
And he described it perfectly, because right when he got stuck in the fence is when he said, "The guy put me in the fence," and that's that. I mean, seriously. I remember, it happened in Austin. It would happen at Pan American where you did have, you had guys that came out and they were purposely there to take, whoever out or whatever the case was. And to hear him describe that, it's like, man, that's totally awesome. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, no, that was great. The Flying Carlucci stuck, and we finally got the real definition of flooched. Even though we kind of heard it on the underside the whole time. But, there's always more to the story, right? We talk about that one incident with John Heil and the fire extinguisher. There was more to that than just throwing the fire extinguisher. Obviously, there's more to the Flying Carlucci video than just Greg flying over that, overshooting it, I guess you could say, right there, overshooting the guy. But that was fun to watch, man. That blew it up last week and literally is on top of the world this week. So it's pretty cool to have him on.
Now we got some other stuff. This is, I think, videos by Donna, courtesy of Videos by Donna, just kind of shooting from the hip here. But, look at CC Speedway right here. And this is in 96, and this is obviously where he was talking about. This is when he had some of the aftermarket stuff. But, look at this. And I still go back to, especially, Bobby, as we've have talked about so many times, where the success that we see on the Gulf Coast, and I just really, really, really think that had CC been able to sustain, because like he was talking about right there, I think the success that Corpus, he finally figured out what we've been trying to figure out for so long, is how could they run two tracks and how could they do all this stuff. They were out there on an island all by themselves, literally, and it just goes without saying that they did. They run, two different tracks right there. And it's so awesome that you do see it passed down in here. This is witchy right here. It was so weird, because I remember the first Oktoberfest, I think it was in San Antonio, whatever year that was. John Witchy and I had one of the best races. I think we ran for 4th and 5th in the super stock, street stock, whatever it was, and clean racing, and we had 2 old beat up Camaros, and we let everybody else wreck, and we just sat there and we raced, and I got him. No. I think he got me. I don't remember who it was. But watching these cars go around, there it is right there. New school car versus old school, and the old school car is going to outdrive the new school. That's CC Speedway.
That really was. I didn't even get a chance to ask Greg about how he's racing down there to L87 in the go-karts. I was going to ask him how he started enjoying that kind of stuff. But all in all, I think it was an insightful interview by one of the players there at CC Speedway for a number of years, not only his dad but himself. And who knows, maybe someday he'll get a chance to race with Ryan in the factory stock race. Lawrence will let him have a car or something like that. You never know how that works. It's funny how all the old drivers that – I say old as in relative drivers that have raced for a long time. We talked to Brandon Bentley about it. We talked to Joe Armadia about it, about how as you get older, you know, you let Greg nailed it on the head. You let bygones be bygones, and now it's like, hey, can I borrow a shot? Can I borrow a spring? Hell, can I borrow your car?
Yeah,
kind of deal with him and some of the guys he's raced against. So I think that's cool to see it. It's almost that coming full circle kind of thing.
Yeah, that style changes up a little bit, and you start seeing things a little bit different. And you know, honestly, the thing is, Bobby, I mean, a lot of what what used to happen at some of these tracks, hell, you can't do it anymore. I mean, you'd get shut down for some of the stuff that would happen back then. But it was so much of the excitement was, you know, after the fact, and now here we are taking a look at. It's a race you were talking about. I mean, take a look at the variety of race car that's on the track right now. I mean, you've got Keith Sandifer right there and Raymond Lund. That's Austin and San Antonio. You got a San Antonio Superstock and a Super Street right behind him. Then there's a CC car right behind him, and this is really, we need to at some point, I think what we should do, and I know I teased it the last time, and there's, I think that's Lynch right there in the 72 car, and that's a totally aftermarket car racing against a Corpus Camaro. So, yeah, you know.
That was a San Antonio late model, too.
Yeah, just the diversity of what we saw. And there's Carlucci right there. He just went by in David Cook's car. And I think what we need to do one day is just run that thing. We'll just run that thing, and we'll kind of do it kind of call it, just watching it, just enjoying the good times right there. Look at that place. This is such a great racetrack.
It's packed. I mean, I remember being there in the grandstands. That place was packed. It was amazing at how many people were there. I remember some of the cars looking a little bit more vivid, but that was also in color too, in person. You know, the technology's come a long way since 1995 in the Texas Stock Car Spectacular. It'd be so cool to see another race like this, but you'll probably never see it again.
No.
Who was in that two car?
That two car, I believe, may have been a Leger, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong, but that's Herelka, that's Heineman, and that's 23. That's Larry. So
Larry was in Brandon's car or whatever, his car, I guess.
Yeah, that may be a Leger back there behind him, and up at the front of the pack, all these fancy ass cars. And look at Brandon Bentley and David Sevilla's Chevelle. That car had a lot of secrets in it, and I tell you, that's a fast car. And there's Larry right behind him, Smith. But what a night! And look at those grandstands. And I tell you, CC Speedway never disappointed. Whether it was a race like this, an all-pro race, but those weekly shows were just so good, and it is Leger in the two car.
Doug Leger, yeah.
And it's funny now because now you got Leger Jr. out there racing in the dirt tracks, and it's like, God dang it, we've been doing this stuff too long.
It is crazy how when you start seeing the sons of the guys that you race, that you remember being young when you started watching them race.
I know. That's what
everybody remembers. Doug's number 6, that sweet looking Pit Solutions number 6 super late model that had the stripes on the side of it. That was some good racing too, as long as they've been racing together. But the Legers always had, both the brothers always had damn good looking stuff, and so does David Jr. have a lot of good looking stuff.
And look at that right there. I mean, here they come out of the corner and just good racing. And I think that's what we'll do. It'll be a Revved Up special. We'll run the hobby stock race, and then we'll run the whatever they called this, super stocks. I guess it was what they
limited late model super stock is what it was called.
Yeah, and actually, I think we may have Carlucci back. And Greg, hell, everything good on that end over there?
Yeah, I'm out here watching my girlfriend play a kickball game, and one of the girls just broke her ankle.
Oh, nice.
They were all waving at me to come over and check her out.
We won't keep you much longer, but we've got that race that you were in there, that 1995 race. But I mean, put it all in a nutshell, you know, for you. Just what did CC Speedway mean to you?
You know, that's that'll always be my home track. That's where I spent the first 20 plus years of my driving career, is out there. And man, I don't, I think about how many laps, and I pretty much raced full time at that place from 92. I took a year or two off in the late 90s, but, all the way through, 07, 08, almost 20 years full time out there. That's a lot of time on one track. And I think about all the people, I met out there, and just from, childhood memories back from, man, there was that old farmhouse.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all know about that old farmhouse outside Turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in the 80s, you had the mud drags, motocross.
Oh, that's right.
The go-karts that you could pay to drive after the races. And that place was packed. Every week there was cars up and down Flato Road.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't, fit them in the parking lot. And just the way the track evolved, the racing surface evolved, but there was always good racing there. No matter, you could put 6-8 cars out there and you're still going to have a good race.
Yeah.
It's just the way that track was. But, it goes back to the stories my dad would tell me, all the races I saw my dad in, and then all the guys I watched race there from, Lawrence and Rick and Slick and
Mm-hmm.
Greg Davidson and Mike Denman and Monty Nichols and all the guys. I watched the Flanagans. I got to see them race a little bit. And, as a kid growing up, those are like heroes. And now, I still treat them like heroes because, man, those guys were cool back then.
Yeah.
And, even though, we're on a friendly, level basis or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I used to watch you when I was a little kid, and I get people come up to me now. I used to see you when I was a little kid. I'm like, man.
Oh, I know. I get that too. I'm like, oh, great. Yeah. It's like, you used to race against my grandpa. I'm like, oh, great. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, really good. So
I saw you when I was 2 years old
Oh,
back
I
in
know.
the 90s, and now I'm 30.
yeah, way back in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you been by there lately? Have you gone?
No.
Yeah.
No, I saw the pictures, and I don't even know if I want to go by there. It's like seeing those pictures of San Antonio. Even though I didn't race there much, I loved that track. And I wish I got to race there more. And man, just to see San Antonio with the crap growing through the asphalt, and just the way it's run down, and then I had hopes for CC that was going to come back. You had the rumors that once, this company that was using it was done, that they were going to help, rebuild it. And so I had hope, but it's just sad to see that it's going away for good.
Yeah. That's tough.
So, Greg, one last thing. You talk about CC Speedway and all the memories we like it. It looks like I think it was you and some other guys were racing pretty hard down there at L87 at one of the Saturday afternoon go-kart events. Talk about how much fun you have running down there at L87.
That's funny because you got a lot of the same guys that, racing big cars on Saturday night. We're out there knocking the crap out of each other on Fridays and Saturdays. But I have, there's a time when you got to step away from the big car stuff and just go have fun.
Yeah.
We're not out there for money. We're not out there for points. Most of us aren't. I've won a couple of championships out there just because I showed up, every week. But
Yeah.
you're just out there to have fun. And if you break something, you broke something, and big deal. You didn't spend $1,000, fixing it, and so, but you get the same kind of feeling from racing those little go-karts on that track as you do as a big car. You're out there, you're nose to tail, you're, bumping and grinding. And then, afterwards you're shooting the shit and drinking a beer,
Yeah.
it's just fun. I have a really good time out there. And I went out there, 3 years ago when Lawrence first started that stuff. and I won a lot of races. Now I can't keep up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
It's like, and it's just like we were talking about earlier. It just evolves. They were all trying to catch me, working on their crap, making their carts better, and I'm sitting there comfortable because I can go out there and run up front every week. Now I'm like, crap, I better start working on my cart.
yeah,
Because
that's right.
I go out there and I'm like, man, can I just not drive anymore or what? 'Cause these guys are just whipping my butt.
No, it's as a man once told me. A man once told me a long time ago. He said, as you get older, you got to make sure your reflections stay with you. He meant reflexes, but it's like make sure your reflections stay with you.
No, I'll never accept that.
Yeah.
And everybody, I have people, ask me, who do you think was the best driver out of CC?
Yeah, great,
And
great question. Yeah.
I think of a lot of them, and I still think Lawrence is the best because I've seen that dude run dirt, asphalt. I've seen him in late models. I've seen him in modifieds. I've seen him in limited modifieds. I've seen him in factory stocks. And even though he doesn't race all the time, when he shows up, you better have your shit together because he's and he's I'm not sure how old Lawrence is. He's got to be in his 50s. I don't know if he's 60 yet.
Nobody knows.
Don't be mad at me, Lawrence. Yeah, he won't tell anybody. George Strait, but the George Strait of dirt track racing, they call him. But
I don't know, dude. With that hairdo, I mean, I'm like, dude, we gotta get you to the Great Clips, man.
and I'm thinking, man, in the last 20 years, he's already, in his 40s, 50s. I imagine that dude when he was in his 20s and 30s. I hear about him at, Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Houston tracks and the Rio Grande tracks, and Lawrence is just one of those guys that, and whatever you put him in, he's going to run. And I think he's probably the best from around here.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
There's a lot of good drivers. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good drivers from Corpus and around here. There are a lot, but I think all around, Lawrence is one of the best.
And I'll tell you how exciting it was at CC. We were running a video there from 95, and some guy in a black number 28 just barely beat you in a heat race, and the crowd's going crazy. I think because the guy beat you. They're like clapping, and that was part of the thing.
I had a lot of friends back then.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to wear the black hat sometimes.
I'm being sarcastic, but
no, it's totally good.
I was a young kid. I was probably cocky too. I had some success running, and a lot of my reputation came from my dad's reputation when he ran. It kind of carried over to me, and
yep.
And I accepted it. I had a lot of fans, but I also had a lot of people that didn't like me.
Yeah.
And that was just one of them things. And it's like, somebody told me if people don't like you, you must be doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I always took that.
No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you said Lawrence is the best, is he going to give you free admission into the go-kart track next week when you go down there?
He wants to go race.
He always does because I'm the track paramedic.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I'm an employee while I'm racing, so
that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. But so looking at it all, I mean now and we'll there we go. Somebody just got looched. Oh, and you're on your side. You just went over. Oh no, yeah, that is you. Damn. Go back and watch this. Good stuff. So looking at all of this, I mean, from the CC days, I mean, to now, is our sport in good hands? I mean, because it's drastically different from when we were kids.
Oh yeah, it's totally different. But on the dirt side, it's thriving. I mean.
Yep.
I wish there were still asphalt tracks around. My heart is still with asphalt, maybe because I just don't run as good on the dirt as I did on asphalt.
Amen.
But dirt is fun. Dirt is fun. Once I got used to it, I love it now. It's a lot more work, I think, and you really got to drive these cars, and you got to learn the track conditions, and you got to learn how to adjust your car to the track, and so it's a lot more work, in my opinion, than asphalt was. But I don't see it going anywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, as long as they keep it somewhat affordable, and I'm glad to see these tracks are coming together with common rules.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I can take my car to 37. I can take it to Texana. I can go up, farther north, Cotton Bowl,
Sure.
and I don't have to change. I don't have to put a bunch of money into my car. I don't have to change tires. I don't, maybe a gear or, a couple of small changes, but the rules are, and I'm glad these guys are finally coming together and doing that. And
Yeah.
it's only gonna benefit everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really the key right there, and that's always been the problem. I mean, just to get them to work together, but they're doing it, and
Yeah.
I
yeah.
mean, I'm with,
you don't want to travel to another track. First off, you got to pay to travel, and then second, you got to change your car all up just to go race over there. And a lot of guys are like, you know what? I'd rather just keep it up on jack stands and
yeah,
go do something else. And now you can take your car, pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for the the cost of travel.
Yeah, yep. And I'm with you. I don't care if it's pavement, dirt, whatever it is. And it took me a while to figure that out. I mean, it's like we just have to. It's the same. It's the same. It's the being around, talking to guys like you and all of our friends. It doesn't matter. We're a big ass state full of good buddies, and that's really what it's all about. And I think right now I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, we were doing the go-kart thing, with Ryan, and I said, I'm not here every week doing the go-kart thing at the dirt track. I might as well bring my car out. And in 2011, they had their first, one of their big South Texas shootouts, and I had already started tearing my car apart, and Owen put a bunch of banking in that track, and I went out there and said, man, this kind of looks like TC Speedway. I think I can do this.
Yeah.
So we changed the gear, ripped the windshield out, and I went out there and I won the thing, and I said, well, hell, I took an asphalt car and I can run dirt and I can be competitive and we're still doing it.
Yep. Nope. Glad you guys are still at it, man. And man, thanks for all the great memories of CC Speedway. I mean, we're still playing some stuff here, but you and your family, man, you were the guys. I mean, that last name pops up. CC Speedway gets mentioned, and boom, Carlucci.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that supported that track for decades, families, and if it wasn't for them, it probably would have gone away a long time ago.
Absolutely. Well, I hear there may be some kind of celebration, appreciation coming up, so maybe we'll all toast a beer and just kind of celebrate the good times.
There you go. Sounds good.
Absolutely. Thanks for checking in, dude, and thanks for double checking in. Hope everything is good on your end, man.
Appreciate y'all having me on. That was fun.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Take care.
All right, guys. Bye.
You bet. Take care. There he is. And well, that was one hell of a wreck right there.
It really was, wasn't it?
That's a very detailed video right there. As a take that Outlaw Racing number 34 apart right there, but you feel the passion right there, and I did want to ask him, and I think that's where folks don't understand, like where he says, I mean, he doesn't want to go look. I mean, he doesn't want to go see what the hell's going on there, because I mean, it's hard, man. It is rough when you're emotionally tied to a place like that.
Yeah, with as many laps he's had around that place, I mean, it's been a big portion of his life. And it's been a big, not only his life, his dad's life and stuff like that. So when you have something that, let's face it, these tracks are like family members. When
they
you
really
think about
are,
it,
man.
you can't talk about something back in the day. I was here. Back in the day, I was here. I remember being a kid at Longhorn. If it wasn't for Longhorn Speedway, I probably wouldn't still be the race fan and the racer and the announcer I am today, because of the fact that I went to Longhorn every Saturday night.
Yeah, and that's so much of it is. And I mean, that's where I'm so thankful. I mean, I'm thankful. I've said this a couple of times. I said it the other day on Facebook. I'm so thankful to two people. Obviously, my dad, because he took me to a track and really got this stuck in me. But I mean, Marianne Nauman's dad, Jake Wallace, and I mean, the story is, I mean, Jerry Stanley, who raced for Howard Reithmeyer, they sold little, the model cars. I mean, like now what we call a diecast. And I wanted a number 49, little model car, and they sold out. And I was a young kid, little bitty old kid. And I'm crying because, my dad's like, sorry, that they're sold out. And Jake Wallace Sr., Jake Jr.'s dad, Marianne's dad, comes up, and he heard me bawling over there, squawking, whatever the hell I was doing. He came over and he said, I got something better for you than a model car. And he picked me up, put me in his car, put me up and set me in his white number 9 Camaro. And I remember, dude, and it was so long ago. So long ago. I remember the smell of the rubber. I remember the everything. The smell of the fuel. And that was it. That was it. And it's stuff like that where we get so ingrained into these tracks. And it's hard with CC because it's like we said the other day, Bobby, it'd be so cool if it was like you went and it was gone and it was just dirt. But man, it's being torn apart slowly. And I think that makes it harder.
Mm-hmm. Well, like Longhorn was gone in a day. Kyle took a little bit of time.
But it took
before
forever.
It was,
yeah.
Took forever. But the tornado started it, and then it blew out. Started it from there. But it's sad when you see these old racetracks go. But the good news is we got one of our own racetracks starting on Saturday, and so everybody needs to go down if you're a fan of asphalt racing. The Gulf Coast Racing Series action at Houston Motorsports Park kicks off on Saturday night. I know that you'll be there. I am, at least as of right now, still intending on being there. I've got some plans that I have to be back on Sunday for, but I should still be in. Even though I'm not racing, got the call today that the car's not ready, so won't be racing this weekend. But I'll be racing at some point here in the next couple of races down there at the Palace of Power.
And that is going to be a great program. And I'm curious to see from what I've been told. And we, if you're still checking in here, I mean, Jake Wright being the truck champion. I mean, we're going to have a fully loaded field because for trucks. Tell you what, for trucks, it's going to be a smart idea for them to show up because now you can actually win. You can win a state championship here in Texas, but you can obviously jump in and win. I mean, with the Gulf Coast Racing Series, you can go track to track and you can earn a lot of extra money and really cool stuff there. So I'm really hoping that we're going to see a full field of trucks. It's going to be tough because I know for just a couple of challenges, and again, we've talked to Gina on here where it didn't have a lot of flexibility on dates, obviously being Easter weekend, but you got Pensacola on Friday as well, and my whole thing is to the guys with the tires. I know there's some changes there with the wheels and so forth that could affect some of that, but please don't use the tire thing as a reason to not come race in Houston. And for the because so many of these teams buy a set of tires every weekend anyway, so you're going to have to do that anyway. But I mean, we have got to keep this place going, and I think I mean again, look, this is what happens when people don't show up at a racetrack. So we got to keep Houston thriving. We've got a few opportunities here in 2021 where we got to go out and we got to make this happen. And I know the Ecos will be there. I know the Legacies are going to be in strong force. But I'm talking to Super Stocks. I mean, I know those cars are sitting around. I mean, bring them. I mean, we've got to have a good weekend at Houston this weekend.
Yeah, we got to have a good way to kick off the 2021 season, and there's plenty of those cars sitting out in the weeds, and some of them actually up on jack stands for the super stocks, and even some of the outlaws that are still there. So now's your chance. Quit complaining about not having a place to race. Is it far from anywhere? Yeah, it's a chug to get to Houston, but you know what? It's the last asphalt track we got left, and we need to celebrate and support it.
No, and I'm here to tell you, and that's a great point. I mean, I'm not hauling a race car around, but I can tell you for the last 3 weeks, I have been in Waco on Friday. In one weekend I was in Edna the following day, and then Page. None of that's close for me, but you've got to commit. You've got to buy in, and if you're not going to the asphalt track, please go to a dirt track somewhere because, But seriously, buy into what Gina's doing with the Gulf Coast Racing Series because this is going to be massive, and we really need your help. And I remember when CTS the changeover in 2013, it was folks weren't buying in there, and it was an act of Congress to get people to buy in. It finally happened, and it was going that year that the place closed down was going to be massive. We've got to. If we want more dates in Houston, we got to earn them because that's really what it's all about, and it starts this Saturday.
It does. It starts this Saturday, and don't forget to thank Gina for all she's done. She usually doesn't want it, right? Because she's just thinking it's part of the part of being the promoter. But don't forget to tell her she's doing a good job because she really has. Every day that track is open for more round stuff and have a good time is all because of Gina and her hard work.
Yeah, because I can tell you, and again, we pop up CC Speedway here. Not that that's what would happen to Houston if there wasn't oval track racing, because I think that they could probably utilize that oval track as a great pit area there, because that place is running drag races all the time. I mean, it's a self-sustaining thing right here, and Gina's paying rent and putting her and Bo's ass on the line here for us to have a place to race, and they don't really have to do that at all, and we should appreciate that. But get on out there. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I mean, I know it's Easter weekend, but hey, what better way to spend your Saturday night is to get out there and watch some pavement racing in Texas.
In person too. I mean, I'm sure they'll be doing the YouTube stuff, but it's nothing beats being there live and in person. So
yeah.
It should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm getting excited about race weekend here and getting everything turned around. Yeah, it'll be a long weekend, but hey, that's all right. I'm off on Friday, so I got some stuff to catch up on before I go to the track on Saturday. So.
I'm just really glad that we've watched here, as in the month of March, that we've watched so much success with our local tracks, and with this show, our local tracks are the whole damn state, and even nowadays up along the Gulf Coast. And I mean, to see Owen with a couple of good shows under his belt, to see Heart of Texas just doing what they continue to do, and I see why they're so good, because it's week after week, and I tell you, Bobby, it is so amazing that we race at 8:00. Waco races at 8:00, and you get there at 5:30. You get there at 5:30, and there are people sitting on the ground wanting to get in there, and that's really what I hope happens for every other track. And South Texas is going to get cranked up here pretty soon. Cotton Bowl's had just some great races with a lot of challenges. I mean, there's been so much. February wasn't easy on any of us, and we're doing good. We're doing good, and I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, I think it's only going to get better. There's a good, as we said, everybody took racing for granted prior to 2020, and now that it's here, I don't think anybody's taking it for granted anymore. And I think that's a good thing, because when you take stuff for granted, you got to get it in the mindset this stuff can be gone in a flash. We proved it in 2020, and hopefully, with everything goes great here in 2021, we can start looking forward to 2022. I know Gina's already got plans with Mobile in the works for 2022, and it just stands to be a good kickoff race, if you will, for the Gulf Coast Racing Series.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to get tough to let that roll off the tongue. So you're saying Texas Short Track Racing Series.
It's kind of different. Yeah, it's kind of different. But be checking in Gulf Coast Racing Series on the Facebook page. Be checking in there. I'm going to jump on, do some pit walks, all that zany stuff that I was doing last year. We'll be doing all of that, and just get your race ready. Get on out to the racetrack. We'll get you streaming information if you can't get there. But it's gonna be a fun weekend, and I hope to see a lot of folks out there. Hope to see a lot of friends, and let's pack the place, and let's just have a good time. Get to a track somewhere, and I think that we just got to keep this thing going. Greg Carlucci, great conversation right there, as we hear kind of the ins and outs right there. It took him a little bit. I think he didn't really want to do a little bit of the shit talking there, but it's funny. A couple of key phrases there, and then he's like, okay, boom, there it is. There it went.
Mm-hmm. It took a little bit. I think the statute of limitations has not passed for some of that. I think that's why he didn't tell as many stories as he could have. But there's still that.
And like we said, there could be a really cool event coming up. I mean, not really free to discuss details here because it's not our event, but if something gets put together, be prepared, because we may do, or somebody, which would involve us, would maybe doing something really cool in Corpus, and I think that would really pay homage there, and I think folks would really enjoy what may happen at some point.
Yeah, no, if that deal comes to pass, that would be a fun deal, and I'm looking forward to that too. You talk about the stories that'll be told that day. Definitely need to bring the mic and the recorder that day.
Yeah,
that's when the statutes. That's when the statutes is over. That's when it all goes down. That's when you start hearing the really good stories.
But it just really goes back to like we were talking about there, like he was talking about, with his family, the Carlucci's and the Beddoes and the Flanagans, and I mean all these families that we just keep and they just keep reciprocating spawn. It's like you look up and it's all those same names again, and it's just doesn't matter. Pavement, dirt, whatever. Corpus is a place to be. I mean, I think a lot of these racing towns should aspire to be like Corpus, because they got their shit together over there and they just keep pumping them out.
Yep, they sure do it, and like you said, and it's even the generations that you don't know. Some of
It's
these
crazy.
kids have
Yeah.
third and fourth generation racers on both sides of the family.
Hell, we're all related. We're all related, and that's the thing. Even with Houston, I mean, there are times where I look back and I'm like, man, it'd have been really cool. I'm glad I grew up around here, but I'm like, man, it'd have been really cool to grow up in Houston or in, even better in Corpus Christi. I mean, you think, Bobby, that we've got this crap stuck in our veins right now? Imagine growing up in those two towns, because it's just like constant. Great stuff from Greg Carlucci Jr. We got Luch tonight, and we saw a couple of examples of it right there. And he walked us through that famous event back in 1993. Heard it right here.
Yeah, here, live and in color.
Yeah, exactly. Great program. Thanks to everyone for checking in. Get to Houston. Get to a dirt track. Get somewhere. And if you can't get there, watch it. And we're back here on Monday. And who knows what we'll get into next Monday.
No telling. With Easter weekend, everybody have a nice, happy Easter weekend. Be safe out there. And if we don't see you at the racetrack, we'll see you online at some point, too. Don't forget to turn into the Saturday show, 11 a.m., 104.9 on the Horn in Austin. Exactly. Horn FM and the Horn app. We'll talk more NASCAR than we did tonight. Although we talked a lot of NASCAR tonight. But it was dirt, so it's okay. Tonight it was okay. But thank you all. Hope to see you at a racetrack soon. Bobby's down south. I am up north. Enjoy your Easter. We'll be back next Monday. It's a Revved Up Sports Show. # Real Race Talk from Texas.